check this. It's not. There we go. Okay, we're good. Oh, I'm doing the thing? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, please do.
Okay. Hi everybody and welcome to our most recent episode. I don't know what number episode we're on. What is this, like 9 at this point? I think this is 9. Welcome to episode 9. We have another musician interview. I already see the chat moving. I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
It's me.
Yeah. um, so we have I don't actually know how to pronounce your last name.
Wenske. I'm Kat
Okay.
Wenske.
We have
Got it.
Kat
Gotcha.
Wenske.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Thank you. Here today with us, Dr. Chica probably has some questions lined up, and of course we're gonna hear some really awesome input about the things that you do. So Dr. Chica, do you have anything else you want to say before we start?
Okay, so we're very excited to have you, Kat. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with our Pep Band Twitch channel. My name is Dr. Chica, I know it, and I'm the director of Pep Band. And here we have today is Miss Kat Wenske. So everybody give a round of applause.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, Kat, so how are you doing?
I'm doing well. You want me to give a quick intro and just to fill in the gaps a little bit?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, let's do that. So yes.
My name is Kat Wenske. I am a self-taught sound designer, composer, and audio producer, specifically geared towards video games. I've been working professionally in games now for about 12 years. And please, I mentioned this to Dr. Chica. There are no questions that are off the table. I feel like it's really important for us to be resources for students. So please feel free to ask questions. They can be, as personal as like, what did your family want you to be? The answer to that was I was supposed to be a doctor. To as far-reaching as what's your favorite game that you've worked on, or what is the worst instrument you feel like to put in a game that might be doesn't quite fit in the game, but it really does work in whatever emotional sense you're trying to draw together. So please feel free to ask questions. I'll keep my eye on chat as well, and I'm sure our mod will let us know if there's some neat questions too. I also just ate, so trying to digest everything. So please.
Oh. What time? So you're based in Austin, Texas, correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah. What time is it over there right now?
We are at 9:05 p.m. right now. So it's nice. I actually
Got
just
it.
wrapped up
Yeah.
to work and scarfed down some food really quickly, and I'm like, all right, ready.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Good. I'm streaming over here from Osaka, Japan. It's right around noon right now. So, yeah, I guess I'll have some lunch after a couple hours later.
Perfect.
So
Well, I ate enough
very
for both
cool.
of us.
So,
I do over.
awesome. Okay, so yes, so we have our Pep Band students here, and we're very excited to hear and also share your knowledge. And ask the first thing I wanted to ask you about was, how did you get to where you are? So you earlier said you were a musician, obviously. What instrument did you start off with?
I started off with piano. So,
Oh, okay.
I have a very traditional family, and us to learn how to play, myself and my sister to learn how to play piano. And I grew to dislike it, actually, mostly because my family was very much about performing and how that's perceived. And so I lost interest in piano, and then picked it up a little bit in college, and stopped because I had such high performance anxieties just from being in recitals or in other shows or things like that. And then I kind of stumbled back into it again, and grew to actually love the piano in different ways than I had actually grown up to experience. And it's really helpful too, because
so
it's really helpful too because with with the piano, and because I'm so used to how that's laid out, when I do music for games, it translates really well because that knowledge is all there in your fingertips. And with
Mhm.
virtual instruments, it's like, yo, suddenly this is a flute. Suddenly I've got a
Yeah.
clarinet right here. Suddenly I've got some cellos over here, and just knowing my basic fingering and what I was so used to doing with muscle memory, like translates really
Yeah.
nicely in a composition as well.
Yeah, I really feel amazed of what you can do. You know, you basically have like a palette of like
Mhm.
sound colors, and you are basically painting with painting a
Mhm.
painting with all the sources you have right in front of you laid out. Um, the question I always ask to composers is how do you choose a particular instrument for a particular, you know, melody or a mood? Like
Sure,
what do
yeah.
you? Mhm.
I think about the personality of that instrument, like, maybe even as a character. So, for example, let's say, you're thinking about what does a goose sound like in an instrument. Um, Dr. Chica, I'd be actually curious of what you would feel like, but like for me, I almost immediately think about
Yeah.
no, actually, I'm curious about what you think.
Of
Yeah,
goose?
for you, yeah.
Um, like in any instrument then.
Any instrument.
Oh, I don't wanna
Yeah, I
it could be a like a bassoon?
Yeah, that's my first thought, a bassoon or
Yeah.
maybe even an oboe. And
Yeah.
if you almost think about instruments as in a personality or like a shape, I like to think about it like
Mhm.
your storytelling. Very very much storytelling when
Wow.
you're composing. So, maybe it's like a playful song. Okay, well, what are some playful instruments? Like, is it a very kind of
Mm.
let's say we're thinking about your stereotypical large monster kind of guy, but he's goofy and really lighthearted. Like, you kind of think about tubas, like those tuba kind of sounds of moving around like this, or it's a fairy that
Mm.
comes into scene. Maybe it's that nice little harp that is a really nice glissando, and you kind of just sprinkle that in right there. So there's a lot of neat ways to think about personifying instruments and translating that into composition, I think.
Wow. That's very cool. So you have some kind of story or some kind of image, and you basically find an instrument that fits for that mood.
Mhm. And that's just for me
Yeah.
personally. I know some composers that I work with where for them it's very, very much like, okay, I'm most familiar with this instrument. I'll play everything out with that instrument and then substitute it with what feels right in the mix and, just
Mhm.
flush it out that way. I think the benefit of being
Mhm.
familiar with the piano is that, we have a little bit more of a range that we're used to. We have the whole 88 keys of like, okay, I know what this could sound like versus maybe like an instrument that's a lot more limited with, I don't know, let's pretend 5 keys. So suddenly you open the
Yeah.
door, okay, these could be so many different colors.
Wow. So as a composer though, how do you get into the musical, like the gaming music world? Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say for composers, it's really difficult. It's uh, I would say more competitive than it is for sound designers. So I predominantly do sound design for games. And just to kind of hit this pretty early on, there is a lot of I don't want to say controversy, but a lot of discussions where sometimes a developer will assume that a composer is also a sound designer and a sound designer is a composer, and they are completely
Mhm.
um, two different meals. But at the same time, they
Yeah.
complement each other. So
Can
there's
you,
a lot of
I'm sorry, before you start
yeah.
talking, can you explain what sound designer is actually?
Absolutely. So a sound designer um, creates the let me see, manipulates sound to convey something else. So, for example, if you
Mm.
think about the sound when you click on your phone and you hear the little beeps, a person that made that is a sound designer. And a lot of times, something that sound
Mm.
as simple as like a 3 5 second sound is actually comprised of like maybe even 15 different sounds that are massaged and manipulated just to make that
Wow.
one little blip.
Mm.
So like a
So
creature, you
yeah,
might
everything
hear.
what we hear
Uh-huh,
digitally.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So like when you're watching a film, like let's say you're watching a horror movie, the sounds of those creatures, you can't just go up to like some creature like that in real life and be like, please make that sound for me. And even then, if you record a real sound, let's say a gunshot, the actual sound is kind of flat. And so when you design that sound, you're actually going to exaggerate it to make it sound realistic.
Wow. So do you, for example, because you mentioned about gun sound, um, so that sound is taken from an actual gunshot, and you're going to like change the depth of the sound and how
Yeah,
it's.
so sometimes I'll use the source of an actual gunshot and then I'll layer
Mhm.
in other things to give it more texture. So, for example, the sound
Mm.
of someone hitting a barrel might give it a little more oomph, or the slight texture of a seal actually will give it a little bit of a guttural kind of push. And
Ah,
maybe actually this, like, there's so many different things that you can manipulate to make it sound like what someone would imagine as realistic. And
wow.
you might not even need that actual sound of the realistic gun, and you can create it yourself in using a lot of different types of manipulation.
Hmm. So, for example, like in Hollywood movies, you hear this like blasting, like explosion. That must have so much layers to that us
Yes, and
viewers don't really realize. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of subtleties that the regular listener won't notice. And sometimes, with my ear, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I know this sound. Oh my gosh, it's just, okay. That's fine. I don't know why they put that in there, but sure. Like I'll even use a lot of sounds that don't necessarily exist in a certain realm. Like for example,
Mm.
a toilet flush, simple
Yeah.
toilet flush. Um, I've designed a toilet flush with the sound of a tiger slightly growling, just to give it that
Tiger.
extra just give it that extra texture, and you won't be able to
Wow.
notice and like really know, like, okay, that's a tiger in this toilet. You would be like, oh, that's a toilet. So you kind of manipulate our perception of sound and what you think is real to fit the picture or to fit the
Mhm.
idea of it. And it's very much
Mm.
like composing, because with composing, you are also trying to pull together a story and tell that story to your listener. I'd say sound design is
Wow.
like a very abbreviated short story, and composition is
Mm.
in longer form.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think that there's so much layers to an actual what we perceive as a reality, right?
Mhm.
Um, and we get so much information from viewing a source, but actually we get a depth out of hearing the sound. So I can see that sound designing is so crucial to our world right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
No, no. So how did you get into this field? So you are doing composing too, I assume, but how did you get into the sound designing field?
So when I was in college, I was going to college specifically to do pre med, and
Mm.
then had switched majors to do psychology and child learning and development, because I'm like, I'm going to go into research instead. At that time, I met my future husband. I mean, he's currently my husband, and
Hmm.
he was going to school specifically for game design. And he asked me, he was like,
Okay.
"Hey, you play piano? Can you make music for this game I'm working on?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure. What? That's not the same.
Mm.
It's as many of your students probably can lament. Like when you have um, music in front of you, you're already interpreting something that's written, and then you kind of you can express it differently, but overall the ideas are right there. But when you're composing something, you're trying to grasp at all these different
Mhm.
ideas and squash them into what you're hoping will convey the feeling that you have. And that was something I had never done before, And I think a lot of people don't quite see that can actually be completely different skill sets, being able to play an instrument and being able to
Yeah.
compose. So I did that, and
Sure.
I was like, oh no, I really love this. And at this point,
Ah.
I think I was maybe at the end of my junior year. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 let's keep doing what we're doing. And then come my senior year, I was helping with some other student projects and then also helped my husband work on some sounds for his games. And I didn't have anything, I didn't have sound libraries or whatever to manipulate. So I just kind of went around my apartment
Mhm.
and I was recording staplers to emulate the sound of a gun
Oh my gosh.
and hitting pots and pans in my washing machine and all sorts of strange
Yeah.
things. And I realized, like, this is a form of creativity I had never experienced before because I was so used to a very structured and rigid path and looking at things
Mhm.
in a very concrete form. And I mean, you
Mhm.
can kind of see now, like, I just explode with color and I'm just kind of a late bloomer
I love
to
it.
all
I
these
love
different
it.
types of thoughts and ideas. And so
Yeah.
now I think, it's so exciting because there's so many different ways that a person might interpret um, the sound of a goose, the what an
Mm.
instrument of the goose might be, or how could we create it in a way that sounds like it's a fun-loving goose versus, hey, this is kind of a jerk of a goose. Like, how do we convey that in a different instrument or with that same instrumentation? So I think there's
Mm.
a lot of really interesting ways to interpret music and sound.
Wow. Yeah. We always have this I teach a music appreciation course and talk about what makes music wait, what does wait, let me make this straight. Um what is music and what is sound?
Yeah.
What's the separation between the sound and the music, right? And what you are doing is actually kind of a both.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. What's your take on, what's music and what's sound?
I think it goes back to storytelling. With
Mm,
music, it is a novel, and
yeah.
with sound, it's a short story. And so, if we look at music with, okay, what's the sound of this? It's almost like, okay, well, what's the abridged version of this story that we're telling? So, you could be listening to, your favorite classical piece and be like, all right, well, I understand what it's telling us, but like, what's the emotion behind it? What's the abridged version of what this story is? So
Mm,
a lot of my thinking goes back into storytelling. So if I'm
yeah.
designing sound for like a light bulb, it's just, it can be such a simple thing like a light bulb. Who spends time thinking about it? I spend time thinking about it because I'll design the sound for it. So it's like, okay, is this light bulb new? Is this light bulb slowly dying? Is this
Mm,
light bulb fueled by magic? Does it have the souls of all of your enemies that's giving it that energy? Okay, that's a little far stretch, but let's say it's something that's slowly dying. Okay, well, we got
mm,
the flickering elements. Like, okay, well, I mean, it could be really simple and just not really tell a story, but there are so
yeah.
many textures that we can add to it to give it more feeling. So it's similar to having chamber music and then you decide like, okay, yo, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this for a whole full orchestra. So it's
Mm.
almost the same abridged version, but now your story is even bigger and it's more full.
Wow, that's very interesting. Your take about it, and yeah, like you said, the story is really what makes music, like the
Mhm.
feeling and the emotions when it. Um, so, um, I really am curious of if you were to tell or the students how like the way you got to the career was by, of course, your husband and also your background as a pre-med and playing the piano. But what is an advice you would give to students who are interested in becoming a music or game music composer or
Yeah,
a sound designer?
yeah, sure. I think especially while your students definitely reach out to other students, like, this is the prime time for you to be experimenting in low risk situations, where you don't have to feed 15 children and have a mortgage, etc., etc. This is
Yeah.
the perfect time to be looking for other involvement that you can be in. So, for example, maybe there are some low budget films or low budget studios that you can, like, hey, let me help write music for the main menu or this cutscene or something like that. Check in with the game development department. See if there's student projects that you can lend your talent to. Or maybe it's even a situation where there's an existing studio that has music, but they don't have budget. The easiest way that I'm able to really make a what we call like in the box composition sound, and by in the box it means like solely using virtual instruments. The easiest way to make it sound more full and realistic is to hire a musician. So,
Mm.
I mean, Dr. Chica, I could be like, I would really love a saxophonist to like play this portion of this existing track. Then you'd be able to play it. You get your experience there. Blam, I put that in the music, and suddenly you're already in some credits. So you're building your portfolio, you're building your network that way.
I have a
I
bit
see.
of a side question. Sorry.
Mhm.
So yeah, you mentioned like there's student projects and stuff like that you can do, but what about outside of school? How would someone even start? Like, where would you know how to find a studio that needs XYZ?
That's a great question. The easiest route, I would say, is to start using Twitter and start networking in that regard. Or a faster route, actually, would be to look for game jams. And a lot of game jams are in sometimes a short time frame, like sometimes it's only like a weekend where they're working on a game from start to finish. It could be a small game. Or sometimes they're trying to form a group for, I don't know, maybe a several week long game jam. Then you're gaining your experience working with other people from the start to finish of a title, ideally, and maybe working with them, you loved it, and they want to continue working on the game to make it even bigger. Or they'll work on other projects, and then you can hop on with them, or word of mouth can help a lot as well.
I see. You understand, Alan?
Sorry, my mic was off. Yeah, that's cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, the hardest thing when I graduated was how do I find a gig? Because a lot of places are like, hey, you can't work at the studio unless you've launched a AAA title or you've been in the industry for X amount of years. And it's that catch-22. So you want to make sure that you are working on things outside of your current curriculum in school. You want to show that you have um, agency over your own career, agency over your own creativity, and that you have the drive to actually do things outside of what's assigned to you. So, for example, when my first industry job was over at Gearbox, and I was working on Borderlands 1 as an intern. I didn't have any launch titles except for small student projects. But that helped me a lot so that I'd be able to have something in a portfolio to show them and to show that I have a certain initiative, that I could do X, Y, and Z, and, got my foot in the door.
And what were the student projects, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what did you do?
Sure. So I worked on several student projects doing composition, and then I had a few where I was doing solely sound design. And then the internship that I had at Gearbox was specifically for, what was it? Oh my gosh, it's been so long. I think it was specifically geared towards sound design. So I was doing audio support for implementing sounds in the game, as well as helping sort out some of the voiceover stuff.
That was a fun sound game.
It was, yeah, and it was actually prior to Borderlands, I predominantly played RPGs and platformers. I had never played an RTS really, RTS and FPS. And so my first day there, they were like, "Okay, go ahead and test the game," and I'm like, "Okay," and no one let me know about like the God mode essentially, and so I was just dying repeatedly and very early in the game, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is horrendously embarrassing." But I'm like, all right, such is my fate. But yeah, it was a great learning process. I learned a lot from them, and after that, like I went and I moved to Austin to look for other jobs here, and I am still in Austin, so that's great. I do want to emphasize though that just after you get a job, it doesn't mean that you will necessarily be all sorted out and you'll have jobs for the rest of your life. The biggest thing is making sure that you are always trying to forward your momentum by building your portfolio, by honing your skills, and not being complacent. I think that's a really, really, really big thing that both students and professionals need to remember. The moment you stop trying to push yourself in learning is the moment you start falling behind.
Yeah, that's a very great advice. So thank you, Kat. Yeah, it's always this being as a student, and also even going out in the professional world. It's always difficult to find that the networking, and you always constantly have to keep networking, and not just that one, how to say, in the gaming world, but some other branches, right? Like you never know. Yeah, you never know where you're gonna meet who. And that's extremely essential. I hear that Austin is such a growing like a tech community starting
yes,
up
it
there,
is.
right?
And that's one of the reasons why I moved to Austin, I think like 2009. I moved to Austin because I'm like, okay, there's a lot of small businesses opening up. There's a lot of game studios here in Austin. There's a lot of potential and a lot of different types of studios that you could as well.
I see.
I see a comment in. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I see a comment in chat saying that it can really be difficult when you don't know where to start and where to look for certain resources. And I completely agree. I think the biggest asset you have is really YouTube. For me specifically, when I wanted to branch into doing composition and doing sound design, the school that I went to didn't have something specifically geared towards that, and YouTube wasn't like a really, really, really big thing. But now
I don't know.
so
I
many
don't know if
resources.
I don't know if there are any, like in an academic situation, institution where they actually teach or you can major in sound designing. Have you heard of any?
You can, yeah. There's a lot of schools now that will teach specifically game development. There's a lot of game audio geared schools. Like Full Sail, for example, has a whole section where they are teaching recording and sound design and whatnot. And it's a great resource. But the biggest resource, honestly, is the internet, because right now there are so many free lessons. There are so many people writing tutorials and stuff. It's wild. And honestly, like it's terrifying because it can be really, really overwhelming, because you don't know where to necessarily start. And I would highly recommend just kind of exploring and finding what's comfortable to you. Because for me, for example, I grew up with the notion that failure was bad, and that if you're failing and if you don't do well at something, then you've wasted time. And that's really not the case. And it's a terrible mindset to get stuck into. And honestly, it's something that I tell a lot of students and my coworkers too, and even myself, like fail early, fail often, because what you start to realize is failure is part of the learning process. It's part of growing as well. And with any type of music and sound design, we are vulnerable artists. That's really what we are. So we're always having to put our babies out there and be like, please someone love this baby. And they're like, wow, that's the ugliest baby I've seen. And you're like, I'm very sorry. Let me take that baby back and I will make it more beautiful for you. And that's really what it's like. Because I could even be sharing something with a coworker and they might be like, and I've spent so many hours on it, I'm so proud of it. I'm like, okay. And learning how to take feedback is so important too, both in an academic sense and in a just regular day-to-day sense, and for your professional career, taking feedback
Yeah.
is extremely important. Otherwise,
Yeah.
my goodness, you're gonna be in for a rough ride as an
Oh,
artist.
yeah. Right, right. And to be a creative artist, you're always going to have criticism,
Yes.
compliments, but also at the same time, a lot
and
of
it's
criticism.
always easy to remember the criticism first before the
Yeah.
compliments. And that's
Yeah.
that's the worst. Like I
Mhm.
recently got some feedback that, like, some of the sound design I did, like, really emphasized the emotional story that was being told, and it was so meaningful to them. But all I could think
Mhm.
about was, I'm just working on this current sound and it just sounds like garbage. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I need to take a step back, think about it. Okay, yes, it's garbage, but how can I fix this garbage to sound what I'm trying to create? And it's so
Mhm.
easy to get stuck in a mindset of like, wow, nothing I'm creating right now feels right.
Yeah.
Or wow,
Mhm.
I did that before. Like, what if I never live up to that again? Or, it's like maybe for your pep band, like they might have performed somewhere and it was amazing, but then the next performance wasn't really as polished as the previous. And it's like, but we put in all the hard
Yeah.
work. Like, what happened?
Yeah. What happened? Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
it's part of being an artist. We have our ebbs and flow. We're
Mhm.
not a stagnant creature.
I have
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
question.
And what is that, Alan?
I said I have another question if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So do you have a favorite type of video game to work on?
It's a rough question because there are so many different elements to games.
True.
And there are so many different styles.
True.
Like one RTS will be different than another RTS. One horror game can be completely different than another horror game style. And the involvement can be so broad. Like for one game recently, I did sounds for spiders.
Oh god.
I really don't like spiders. Like
I
thinking
don't
about
either.
it, like, I'm sorry.
I said I don't either.
Yeah, like thinking about it, like, just gives me goosebumps. But I was doing vocalizations for spiders, and like,
Oh,
they're supposed to be kind of cute spiders, but also terrifying spiders. Like one is a radioactive spider, one is like a queen spider who spawns little babies when you hit her. That's just the worst. But it was new and it was something I hadn't done before. And like I worked on other games where it's like, okay, well, we actually want like music for sorting vegetables. It's like, okay, well, who listens to music when they sort vegetables? I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a playful game. It's for Whole Foods. Oh, okay, let's let's make it kind of playful. What's the story I want to tell with these vegetables? So I think there's a lot of unique things that you can glean and learn from for different styles and different types of games and different platforms. It sounds like a cheap answer.
Yeah, but it sounds like you have to be really observant all the time. Yeah, and be really sensitive to what's going on in the world.
Yeah, it's both amazing and the worst because I'll sit and maybe like a lot of folks in pep band feel this way too, where you're watching a show and there's some song playing in the background or someone's performing and you're like, they're not actually performing. Like that's not the right fingering that should happen at this moment, or like the hand moved, it shouldn't have moved, or like, ooh, this weather isn't the kind of weather that you'd play this, or like, stuff like that. And I'll do the same when I'm listening and watching things where I don't realize I'm at the same time actively listening. And I'm like, oh no, I know this door. This door's in every single sitcom. It's the worst. Things like that.
So you hear things being recycled too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I hear that, or like sometimes I'll leave Netflix on in the background, like on the weekend, and I won't be paying attention. I'm checking my phone or whatever, and I'll notice something strange. I'm like, what am I noticing? And I'll be like, something sounded strange with that weapon. And I'll look up at the weapon. And I'm like, oh, this doesn't fit that at all. And that occurrence was I was watching like I don't know, some B horror movie, and the weapon that they were using was supposed to be a shotgun, but I could hear a little bit of like sci-fi elements and plasma in it. And I'm like, nothing about this horror movie had any kind of sci-fi feels to it that like my ears picked it up and was like, no, something's wrong. It's like, oh man,
Your sound designer ears.
Just let me relax. Let me read my webtoons or whatever. Like, please. So yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah. Wow. Barney, you had a question?
Oh yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sweet. These last few days, I got online and I was in this like gaming music convention type thing that was like 5 hours each day. It was really cool. They had industry professionals from like music game composers to artists to like marketing professionals and things like that. And the whole like takeaway from that was like this, especially now during the pandemic where everybody's online, this is a huge collaborative industry where everything like ties into one another. So like I know you're specifically in music gaming and like doing what you want to do, which is what a lot of us want to do. But if you were to go back and understand like how the industry works as a whole, are there any ideas or any advice that you would give to somebody getting into the industry, whether it's through music, through marketing, through any other?
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing to me is to not be afraid to reach out to established professionals, because a lot of times they are happy and willing to give you advice. But at the same time, keep in mind that advice from one person might not be applicable to everyone. So the game industry specifically has changed so much just in the past 5 years that, you know, if you think 10 years ago, like someone's like, yeah, I used to deliver pizza, and then they hired me immediately because they knew that I liked playing FPSs. Like, it's not common anymore, but it can still happen. Like, it totally could still happen. And you know, there's so many different types of studios that pop up. There's so many indie developers that are 1 or 2 people. But also, even the term indie is different now. Like, indie doesn't necessarily mean a small studio. Some people are like, well, it means self-funded. Well, okay, well, Double Fine is technically an indie studio, and they are pretty hefty. So I think the big thing would be to not be afraid to ask questions, and to explore what is your mark. A lot of times people try and be generalists and feel like that will help them be more marketable. And sometimes that makes them almost more forgettable, because it's like, okay, well, we don't know where you would fit into our structure, because we don't really know what you're interested in because you're dabbling so much. So kind of rein in your focus, and I don't know. It's a difficult question because there's so many things that are like, okay, I would tell myself, don't be afraid to fail. I would tell myself, please start marketing sooner. I would tell myself, start networking in college. Like, there's so many things. Yeah, it's rough because honestly, I don't like networking because I like actually yes. Okay. Networking, super important. But don't do the kind of networking where you're just like sending out your cards like this and sending cold emails and everything. Honestly, what's the best thing to do is to form meaningful relationships, because you should almost think about it like a long game. Because if you form relationships that are meaningful and people genuinely like you, they might not have a gig for you right then and there, but maybe 5 years down the line, they're like, hey, I remember this amazing cellist and I met them, through blah, blah, blah. Oh, why don't we go ahead and contact them? Maybe they will be interested in performing with us at X. Yo, that's amazing. And that's because you formed that meaningful relationship with them rather than, being a card that is put into a box and then they lose that box because, cleaning out or whatever.
So like at times where it seems like being a Renaissance person is good. Here it's not specifically because, like you said, it was forgettable.
Yeah.
You need to leave your mark. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, make your mark, but at the same time, don't feel like you need to invest in something you're not passionate about. Like, professionals love people that are passionate about what they're interested in. Like, just because maybe you feel like the next big thing is hydrophonic EDM, but you really hate EDM, like, yo, don't focus on that then. Focus on what you're really passionate about, and maybe there are ways that you can incorporate your style with that in a marketable sense. But don't feel like you need to hop onto what is the biggest trend, because trends die. But relationships, meaningful relationships, like those continue.
They'll continue. Yeah.
Mhm. It's like a
Yeah.
good
And in
theory.
this really fast, yeah, and in this really fast moving world, right? Like
Yeah.
social media and like connecting with people is so easy, but at the same time, to actually create a meaningful
Mhm.
relationship, as you said, is sort of becoming, I don't know, difficult, it
Yeah,
seems.
I totally agree. And social media, for how good it can also be terrifying, because
Yeah.
you might have, I don't know, 12,000 followers, but that won't necessarily equate a job when you're looking for a job, even though they really like your work. And I think that's what's really difficult, that sometimes we're validated in different ways that doesn't necessarily always translate in getting a gig,
That's true.
being accepted at X university, or to this job, or to this band or orchestra. And that's the thing that's really, really rough with social
Yeah.
media, when it's like
Yeah.
they loved, let's I know a great 3D artist, and he's fantastic, but he's been out of a job for 6 to 8 months now, and he has so many followers, so many people love it, so many people
Yeah.
retweet it,
Yeah.
but he's having a hard time finding his next job, and that's really
Mhm.
scary.
Yeah. There are a lot of artists like that,
Yeah.
similar situation like that
Mhm.
with this pandemic. Yeah. And, in this really, how many likes you have, how many that's,
Yeah.
really being judged. And it's really intimidating I feel like, for the younger generation
Oh
to
yeah.
be judged that way and to be scared about how you're going to get your works judged. But
Hmm.
like you said, I think following your passion and, keep doing what your heart tells you to do. I think
Yeah,
that's what is
absolutely.
the
Like,
key.
I actually, on my Twitter, I shared a very obscure track I made about hot dogs. I'm like, yo, this is how I'm feeling right now. And sometimes you just need to be that fearless and be like, I'm sharing this because it's something I like, it's something I made, and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And I think that can be a difficult thing to grasp and to accept,
Yeah.
because especially during pandemic times, like, we want to be accepted, we want people to like us, we want to feel like we're acknowledged, but sometimes you just got a hot dog and be like, yo, that's how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Was it in favor of hot dogs?
Pardon?
Was it in favor of hot dogs?
I like actively leaned in as if that was gonna help me hear you. I mean, it's kind of in favor of hot dogs. So I think last year my husband and I drove to Disney World, and we had some stop in some random tiny town, and getting snacks, whatnot. And they had those hot dog roller things that just look horrendous and disgusting, and
Yeah.
you shouldn't eat it. So, like, I approached it and I just took a video, because they had some taquitos that were really struggling to move, and they had some hot dogs with different rates, and some other here that are just like really doing their own thing. And I'm like, I love this so much. I called my track "Try Your Best," and if you listen to it, or just open the thing just so you can look at the hot dogs. Yeah, it's just like some are just really trying and doing their own thing, and some are like, I'm going against how you're trying to roll. Yeah, storytelling.
Nice.
I like storytelling.
Pixar film right
RPG
there.
player here. Hello.
I can tell. And I think by doing that through the daily lives, this imagination and the creation really blooms when you put that all thought in your music, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And sometimes you might make a thing and be like, I spent so many hours on it. And, you know, Dr. Chica you might listen to and be like, wow, this is really horrendous. Or you might be like, you made this how long? That sounds like something that should only take you 20 minutes. And I think that's the really interesting thing about, what we're all doing with such a subjective subjective thing. How you might perform with your saxophone might be different than how I would want someone to perform a
Sure.
specific piece. And it's so up to interpretation. And what we're doing with basically as audio mages here, we're really pulling from different types of spell books, and we're trying to still do the same attack. It's a very strange world with what we're doing, and it's really a black magic. That's really what it is.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm really curious how or if or when what I do is classical saxophone, right? And when this classical saxophone can be incorporated
oh my gosh,
in like a music,
so
game music world, I'm so excited about it. Yeah. So if you have any thoughts, Kat.
Yes, like Dr. Chica and I had talked about a little bit of her background earlier, and I was so thrilled to hear that she is a classical saxophonist. Like, that's just so mind-boggling and different, and I'm like, I love it so much, because so I'm in my mid-30s, and a lot of times when people think about the saxophone, you think about Bill Clinton or like what's his face?
Lisa.
Yes, yes, or Kenny G. And it's like, no, it's so much more than Kenny G. And I am so excited to hear a saxophone come back in non-cheesy ways and actually be something really cool again. And I think that's really neat. I want it to happen. Like, let's make all games first. We'll start with something a little more. We'll do some nice. Because you like classical stuff. Okay, so we'll start like in some kind of like lounge bar like area in this game, but it's gonna be you'll have a piano, but instead you'll have like a saxophonist instead. With a night, okay, we're gonna have a whole thing here, but we'll make it an RTS, which will then warp into an FPS. It's gonna be the first. No,
oh
don't
my
worry.
gosh!
Don't worry.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you even have an image of a classic saxophone.
I'm so excited. Yeah, I really, really, really would love to find a game that we could be like, yo, I know Dr. Chica. Let's get her in this game. And that's part of networking. You're starting to build relationships with people. You're starting to learn more about them. And, it might not be now that I'm like, okay, let's get a saxophone in this game. But maybe I'll be working with a client 2 years down the road, and, we gotta have a live instrument.
Or they might be like, we've been overusing cello, or we're,
oh my gosh, yes.
Let's get another, different sound, and you might think of, saxophone or this instrument
absolutely.
or that instrument,
Something I want to circle back to, because I had briefly mentioned it. A lot of studios, especially smaller studios, will assume that a sound designer can be a composer can be a sound designer, but they're sometimes just two completely different things. I will say that definitely more jobs that you'll come across as a sound designer than there are composers, but they lend so much to each other. Again, from that storytelling aspect. Like, for example, with my knowledge in instrumentation and music, I have more of a musical ear when I'm designing sound, and vice versa. Like, I might be working on a track and be like, oh, okay, I can really emphasize this by doing X, Y, or Z, or maybe even the mix will be slightly different just because of my sound design chops there. Or I might process it differently, or add non-musical elements into the track to really emphasize certain things. So there's a lot that you can lend to each other, and there's a lot of things where it's like an instrument can easily become a sound effect. I mean, you always hear like the magical elements almost always have like some kind of beltry or maybe some
Mhm.
flute or something like that. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that really lend to each other. They're like
Mhm.
cousins.
And in today's world where there's so much digital music, do you prefer using an actual acoustic instrument sound, or, do you do both, or um, do you mainly use digital
Yeah,
acoustic
that's a
sound?
great question. I think it depends on the game. So, for example,
Mhm.
if say I'm working on something that's a little more synthetic, then
Yeah.
I'll feel comfortable using the synthesizers. Now,
Mhm.
if I'm working on something that should feel more organic, I might go ahead and pepper in the two. Maybe have some instrumentation that I'll record separately, or even small things
Mhm.
like percussive instruments like a balafon. I'll go ahead and record that and pepper that into because it does give it more color and a lot of life in that regard.
Mhm.
I see a
Yeah.
comment in here that music
Mhm.
should be as colorful as the games they're for. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm really
Yes.
glad that now that we're past the early 2009-ish time, we've reintroduced colorful games again, and games that don't have to be
Mhm.
hyper realistic or monochromatic, and have moved away from the we gotta be wallpaper orchestra music. Like, thank you so much, because I was so tired of that. And thankfully, we also had that indie boom, which died and then came back again, which reintroduced a lot of interesting different types of music and instrumentation and non-serious vibes for games again. So I'm super into that. So yes, I agree.
Mm. And there's also a question: have you ever worked on a remake? If so, would you rather do
Yes.
that or an original?
So I worked on, if anyone's familiar with Age of Empires, I am a huge fan of the Age of Empires franchise. So when I graduated college in '09, my hope was that I could work at Ensemble Studios, but at that time, Ensemble had already folded, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Um, Thankfully, I ended up actually picking up a gig that was with Robot Entertainment, and a lot of them are ex Ensemble people. And so when I got hired with them, I did a lot of audio implementation, and then also ended up helping compose music for Age of Empires, which was
Mm.
really exciting because that's something that I was so
Yeah.
passionate about. Um, but then the hard thing is being a fan of that franchise and then also being a developer on that project, since I was also doing implementation and audio work on that. I started seeing the limitations that sometimes developers have. So it was very much okay, how do I balance the expectations of fans with also the understanding of our limitations as developers with certain technical parameters, a budget, and X, Y, and Z. So that was interesting because then you're also trying to mm, support fans, but also try making something a little different. And you're all it's gonna be that again subjective thing where people are like, I hate this, or yo, I think I really like this. And that's really the difficult thing with IPs, because if they're existing IPs, a lot of times people already have an idea of what it should sound like. And when something new comes out, they're like, oh, hold on. I've also worked on original IPs, which is really great because it opens the door for a lot of opportunities. So there's a lot of benefits by working with an existing IP as well as working with a new IP. With
Mm.
existing, you already have like a framework which you can kind of play off of, but sometimes you're limited with where you can kind of maneuver around. Whereas with new IPs, sometimes you have the free reign to explore, but sometimes a publisher or a developer will really want to keep you in a certain shape because they feel
Mm.
like, okay, this type of thing might sell if we do it this way instead. So it's really project dependent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I might have
Yeah.
missed something. What
Go
is
ahead, Ellen.
IP?
Pardon?
What is IP?
Intellectual property.
Oh,
So
right,
so
okay.
like Borderlands 1 was a new IP. Borderlands 2 is an existing IP because it's building off of Borderlands 1. 2,
Right.
3, blah.
The first one.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay. Don't mean to be that guy, but we got only a few minutes left.
Oh, I ramble a lot. I'm
No,
so
it's
sorry.
totally okay. I just letting you guys
No,
know.
no.
Yeah, hit us up with questions, chat.
They can ask anything.
Yeah.
And
Does anybody want to ask any
there
other
was a question
questions?
earlier. Did we get to it?
We got
Did we get to this question? I might have not been paying attention. How do you suggest a music major reach out to industry professionals to get involved in all of this?
Email them, send them a DM, something like that. But always be mindful of their time too, because sometimes they can't get back to you right away. Sometimes it might take a few weeks and they'll respond to you. But please give them time. Also respect their time. One time I was responding to someone in a very meaningful way, and it was day 2, and like they started sending me messages that just said hello ? I'm like, yo, like what? Anyways, I sent them a really great email, but it's kind of rude. Like, don't do that, please. Yeah, don't do that. And if you send stuff on LinkedIn, for example,
and also good to
if you're sending something on LinkedIn,
go ahead.
please be sure to at least give a brief of who you are, why you're trying to connect with them. Otherwise, they're like, "Who is this person?" Sometimes it's weird. Don't do that.
Why did you find me? How did you?
Yeah, like what's happening? Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll have students try and
Yeah,
connect,
what's
which is
happening?
this is great, but like I'm like, wait, who is this person? Like, are they a creeper? Like, what's happening? Like, oh, okay. During blah, or like they were in this class when I talked to this class or something like that. It's like, thank you. That gives me so much perspective of what's happening here, and I get it. Thank you. Someone asked, what do you suggest to start creating a portfolio to be able to show to people? Start making that portfolio. So best thing to do is start working on an online portfolio. Make it easy, accessible for people. Keep it ideally, well, I guess it's different if you're doing, depending on what you're doing, you can have a playlist.
Yeah.
Now, the playlist can be dangerous because it also has the likelihood of people skipping and just picking and just going through. Or you could be a risk taker and do a no longer than 2-minute portfolio track where you could have a whole medley of different things that you've worked on and just have a really good highlighting, a good idea of what you're highlighting and what skills you're trying to showcase. Now, if you say are trying to be a game composer, a lot of people are very visual. So maybe what you could do is capture some footage you see online from a game that you like, and then rescore it. Or if you're doing sound design, redesign the sound. But always make sure that you clarify in your, let's say, video what's happening and what you did. Like, did you actually compose this? Okay, then you can put that on there. Like, rescored, blah. Now, if I kept the same music there and I didn't put anything in there and I was actually just designing sound, now I've done both the sound and music, and that's not the case. So I would put sound design. What are some of your favorite game soundtracks? Shout out Oh, sorry, I was reading off of chat here.
Yeah. So what was your favorite? Yeah. So what was your favorite?
Depending on the style of what we're looking for, I really love the music in Jet Set Radio. That was for Dreamcast. I love the music in Space Channel 5 too, which was for, I think, also for Dreamcast. Earthbound will always have some of my favorite tracks, which is just fantastic. And Chrono Cross is one of my favorite jams. Yes. I like game music. And I love that. Yeah, I love that game is so expressive or wallpapery if that's your intention. Like, there's so much potential in games to tie your emotion to certain places, or tie it even to characters. So there's so much we can do with audio as a whole, whether it be sound design or music.
Wow. You actually answered sort of my question, my last question I was going to ask. What is game music for you? So, um, it seems like it's,
Yeah. So
the
yeah,
connection.
very much so connection. And that's, specifically to me, I really love that harkening back to I remember this song is that village I visited, and they had this really rude cow, but that was a great village. Or like, that's that boss that I keep dying at. I love games that do iconic music for specific areas or characters, because I think it makes it much more endearing to the player, and it tells a different type of story.
Yeah.
Now, granted, sometimes it might not make sense in games like Call of Duty, but I prefer music that is colorful and has storytelling elements. I also love music that do like strange bits and bobs in them. Like Little Big Planet has some really great music. He's Danny Pemberton is fantastic. And Katamari Damacy. Swell music too.
Very cool.
A lot of different styles.
Yeah, I think I need to listen to more of your music that you wrote, and also I've listened to several, but yeah, I'm very curious to explore even more
Forget
about
the
what
music
this,
I
what the
wrote.
sound
I
designing
want to
is,
hear.
yeah. Oh, please.
So I'm hearing Pepin has to do a
Yeah.
Cat Wenske song.
No. What I'm hearing is the pep band needs to do more game music, and then invite me to listen and like be thrilled at what you guys are working on. Like, that's the actual thing.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Chico was mentioning
Yeah,
that you're
so-
working on some video game music stuff. I'm like, what?
Yeah, we're just
dig it.
taking
Yeah,
some
yep.
songs and recreating
Yep.
them, I guess you could say.
I love it. Like, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we're going to continue doing that. Yeah, we're trying to put one piece together right this semester, and
What are we
we're
working
going to be done
on?
with the semester next week.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
We
Okay,
are
that's
working
it.
on Alan. What was the title?
Oh, are we gonna say? Okay, so we're doing we're doing a our pep band version of the Gerudo Valley theme.
Gerudo Valley, yes.
I love that reaction.
Are you guys
Yeah.
gonna like stream that? Cause like I'm gonna watch that. I want to listen. Invite me, please.
Yeah, so
Is this
yeah,
your final?
yeah,
Let me
yes.
let me
So
listen to your
once,
final.
once we get to put it together.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we would love to. Yeah, have you join us. Yeah, so hopefully we can stream that sometime in December, hopefully soon.
That's
Yeah.
the plan. Yeah.
I dig that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And we have a couple more coming up. We haven't recorded yet, but we have a couple more coming up
Ooh,
and
sneak
next
peek to be-
semester. So yeah, we'll let you guys know.
I want to know. Yo,
Yeah.
very into this.
That's
Super
pretty cool.
into this. Can we have
Yeah.
special requests? Because I would love to make a special request.
Oh, I would love to get a special request from you.
What's your
Do you
special
have any-
request?
Yeah, what's your special request?
So many. We're gonna have some. We're gonna have some. Obviously, some music from Earthbound. The shop music is great. What was it called? Buy Something, Won't Ya? Is the cutest track ever that should always play at every shop. There's some
Oh.
really nice music from Shenmue, which I really adore. Oh my goodness, there's so many stuff. I mean, you can't go wrong with FF8. Specifically FF8. Like everyone loves 7, but yo, 8's where it's at.
So many people talk about it.
You know, we can like branch off into doing some Parappa the Rappa music, which would be really awkward but fantastic. Oh my gosh, yeah. You're just gonna be like, please stop making
Yeah.
requests.
I gotta get a list from you.
Yeah, let's make a list and see what we can come
Yeah.
up
Do you know,
Yes, please.
do you know if the Final Fantasy
Yes, yes.
composer is written for all the Final Fantasies, or they have different people?
I believe he composes for a good amount of them, but sometimes there'll be other composers on the projects.
Gotcha.
Like 10 had some great music. The game itself wasn't that stellar, but it had some really solid music. And then 10 2 had completely different types of music in there, and you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
But you know, to each their own.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, after you have so many Final
Yeah.
Fantasies, like you can only have so many great stuff.
Final Fantasy is an IP.
You're right. You're right. I would say it's an IP in the name, but not the story.
Ooh. Get got. So
Yeah. Sorry, bud.
Yeah.
any final remarks?
Yeah. So, Kat.
Oh, there's a final question here.
So we're at our. Oh, okay.
I see a.
I'm not.
Sorry
the
to
chat.
circle back, but rescoring is a good way to show off your ideas and get a portfolio started. Wait. Is that a question or a
I
statement?
think I meant, but is rescoring a good way to show off ideas?
It can be if you're rescoring completely differently. Not rescoring in the sense of I will now what's the word I'm looking, I want to say translate. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Transcribe?
Yeah. It not in a sense of like I am transcribing, but in a sense of check out Gerda Valley, but in a different style.
So like changing the tone completely.
Yeah, either completely or same tone, but a different interpretation could be also a great way to do it as well.
Like same melody, but same melodic line, but adding different.
Not necessarily.
colors.
It could be a, I still want to have that nice little flair for the valley, but instead of doing it this way, I want to do it in a, let's say rock style, but still convey the same emotion that we're trying to tell here. Yeah, I think there are different types of approaches that you can take with it. It can be completely different. Like maybe you're gonna be like, okay, instead I want to do this with only let's say Native American type of instruments, or I want to do this but make it more of a very Bollywood style track. Could be, I mean, honestly, if you did it a Bollywood style, it would fit pretty nicely too.
I would think so. I would want to hear that. Yeah, that'll be really fun. Well, Kat, thank you very much for talking with us today and sharing your knowledge. It was absolutely a wonderful. I had a very wonderful time talking with you today. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I want to encourage your students, like if anyone would like to, if they have any questions that they have, you're more than welcome to email me. I'll plop my Twitter handle here in chat. I remember yeah, I'll put that there, and then my website thingy. So I don't get flagged for being like a bot or something.
Oh yeah.
It takes me a little while to respond back to you. Q4 at the end of the year for games gets really wild. So please don't send me emails that say hello ? Because I will try my best to circle back. Yeah, please reach out. Again, even if it's like 5 years down the line and you're like, hey, I'm trying to get into this type of industry, like what advice do you have there? Totally fine. Just remind me who you are.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Kat. And a final note, don't forget to check out our link tree below and follow us on social medias to get updates on our latest pep band updates. We have the logo art competition coming up now in full gear, and there's some possibility you can win prizes for getting selected. So go check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Dominguez Hill students got that chance to win that what is it, a gift card? There you go. I couldn't think of words for a second there. I'm so sorry.
What instrument would it be instead? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
Put your words into an instrument.
It'd be a bass.
Yeah. Okay, well thank you so much. I'll see you
Thank
guys
All right, everybody say
next time. Thank
bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Uh,